Today's day 246 of the Arukh HaShulchan OC. If you'd like to sponsor upcoming share more of the Arukh HaShulchan OC, greatly appreciated. Please contact me directly. Today we're getting close to the end of Kuf Samach, but not quite. Today we're doing from Mem Aleph to Mem Tes. Excuse me. V'da, Mem Aleph. Da the Indian pas mevusho, in terms of cooked bread. Yesh libre Rambam per Gimel din Ches Tmiyah Rabo. It's astonishing in the Rambam Mishkosav. A pas shapites osapitim. You pulverize the bread. With bishla b'kdero loshim and you cooked it in a pot or mix it with the soup. Yesh b'tzitzin kazayis if the morsels have a kazayis. Oshnika b'shabahin pas. Or you can tell that their bread v'loishtan tzurosa, the form has not changed. Baruch Haleh b'tchila motzi. Make a motzi beginning. Vein bohen. Kazayis, if they're not the size of the ice, shabra tzurosa pas bishul, or they no longer have the countenance of bread. Mevarach Haleh b'tchila barim b'nei mazonos. You first make a barim b'nei mazonos. Ankar Sharo. That's the end of the quote. The Sosos Atzmo Meresh Sefer. He contradicts himself from the beginning to end. The Beresh Machmir, the beginning is Machmir Kazayis from Hani Avos Surosa. If it's a Kazayis, it doesn't matter if it doesn't have a countenance of bread. Vice versa, Pos Mikzayis, Sarklios Avos Surosa, look at that. Poskim, if it's less Kazayis, it has to not look like bread in order to be Mizonos. We say, in the end, he says the opposite. The Be'aim Kazayis. If there is no kazayis, if you over at surasa, even if it that still has the countenance of bread, the main kazayis, if you over at surasa, ubi kazayis, it's still mizonos kazayis mani avar surah, and the kazayis then the change of countenance works. Kvarnilu kol chachmei aderes l'taritz dvarav. All the sages of all the generations had difficulty trying to answer, trying to reconcile this contradiction. So, that was just clear, or I guess clearest. It's like he was said in the name of the giants of Spain. The Sefer. There's a mistake in the word O, which in the Sefer, where it says, it shouldn't say that. You need both conditions. That has to be that's not, there's no kazayas, and that the countenance of bread no longer is applicable. He says, that way his psak like all the other poskim. What this is Kasem Mishnah Shema Rifasi. But what's the machlokesh? The bein dibuk b'morak doesn't distinguish between cooking and gluing together. In other words, cooking a whole piece of bread, or taking a actually no, it's where that you pound it up. It would be between cooking and gluing. Because I guess lush b'morak actually should be mazonos because you needed it with soup, not with water. Some say the reish kai adibuk demorak. Some say that the beginning is going on dibuk on when you cause it to cling together by soup. But Sefer Bishul ends going on Bishul. He said, make up a Bishul. Koines is very lenient in Bishul. That feel Gazais, even if it's size Gazais, remember to Rasa Mevarach Barim name is Zonos. If it no longer is like bread, it doesn't look like bread, you make a Barim Zonos on it. The low could call post game commotion is boyer. That's not what he said in the ratio. He said Hapasha Pasas Pita Mishla Big Ocean Morok. Yesh Pitim Kazayas, Ocean Icarus sent to pass, and Ocean to Rosa Barcalam to the Motsi. And Kazayas. Shavat Suras Apas Bebishul. Shavat Suras Apas Bebishul. Rachla Betchila Bari Mine Mizonos. That's the end of the Rambam. What does he say here? Okay, he's quoting this from the Kesef Mishnah. Kesef Mishnah, like saying like this: that there are two paragraphs here in the Rambam. First paragraph is about Dibuk Memorak, and at that it says Miesh Babsisim Kazai so Shnika Ben Pas Lushta Tsurasa Mvarchala Bitchila Motzi. So if it has a Kazais or if it's still Nikar, you make a Motzi. That's about Morak, right? And the Seifa, which says Im Yesh Bim Ein Baim Kazayis Vish Avru Tsurasa Pas Bevishul. If it doesn't have Gazayas and over Tzuras Habib Pas Bishul, according to New Girsa, then you make a Mizonos. So according to this, he's made by Bishul that even with, well, actually, this is according to the old Girsa. No, according to the old Girsa, before we changed Girsa. And then the end says, Im Yesh B'Sin Gazayas Osha Nikar Shem Pas, putting back the O, right? So then he's much more mako by Bishul, because he's saying here that only if they have if the season of Gazayas, or you can recognize that they're bread and they didn't change. No, he's not going with the change. He's going with the change of Girsa. Sorry, you say if Ein Bohem Gazayas Vish Over Tzuras Pas Bishul. If you doesn't have Gazayas and it no longer has a countenance of bread, so then you make Bari Minei Mazonos. So according to this, no, wrong again. He's going with the before the gears to change, saying that if you say that Imam Gazayas Osher Tzuras Pas Bishul means even if it's a Gazayas of over Tzuras Pas Bishul, you don't have to make a Hamoti, make a Bari Minei Mazonos. Again, without the gears to change, with still the O, not changing to the Vav. So according to this is very making by Bishul, that even if it Gazayas, if Avra Tzurasa, the Bari Minei Mazonos, the local Chal Paiskim, Moshe's part is not like all other Paiskim. Yesh Chilgum Loshim Lo Nishtan Tzurasa. Some people distinguish between the language of Lo Nishtan Tzurasa, Shazem Rosh Nikar Heitev. It means still very blatant. Veloni Shnana Cloud didn't change at all. In such a case, even if it's less than a Gazayis, you make a moti. By a Gazayis, even though it's changed a little bit and it's not totally recognizable, then you still make a moti. Sorry, that's one thing. Sorry. Again, so there yesh chiluk ben lashon lo nishtan tzua so shezem rosh nikar teib lo nishtan kaklal b'chai gavna gam pos mikazayis and borech hamotzi v'gazayis abish nishtan eksas eno nikar teib and borech hamotzi, right? That lashon of lo nishtan tzurasa means that it's really recognizable that it's bread, and therefore if it's less than a Gazayas, it's less than a Gazayas, you make so if it's less, let's look back here. Gazayas on Shnika ben Shem Pas, Lo Nishtana Tzurasa, Barchala B'Tchila Hamotzi. Yeah, so it's this going in the Reish on the Rambam, where it says that if you have morsels the size of Gazayas, or that's recognizable that they're bread, right, and they haven't changed, in other words, they've changed a little bit, but not a lot, so you still make hamotzi, right? If it's if they have a Gazayas, if they're Gazayas, you make hamotzi, even if it changed a little bit, and if you and if they're the Gazayas, if they're less than Gazayas, has to be more nicker that they're bread. But if it's one of Gazayas, even if it's not, it's nicker ktsas, that it's bread, it's still hamotzi. Less than Gazayas, has to be nicker more, right? So he says here, It's very recognizable and it hasn't changed. In that case, even less than a gezayis megahotzi. You know, it's a little bit different. It's not totally recognizable, but mostly recognizable. That's one halacha. Which means a totally radical change. Completely went away its form. And even the gezayis zonos uvabishul shayach inyan zeh. And this will also do with bishul and the law dibuk the mora kamvan, and not on gluing together with soup, because then it's no longer bread. Because the efshad gam kol poskim yodu lo bifrat zeh ukshu mamash kitavshil, and it's possible all the poskim agree with this when it's mamish a cooked dish with water and the ground up flour. It's not sure, but Gamalev Mishnah he's Kim Kane, I jump. Like Mishnah learn this way. Those wrote, someone wrote through the Taz. It bloated while it was cooked. Now it has gezayis after cooking. Before it was less gezayis, so shniz dabek bebishul. It got larger. I guess stuff clinged together more, and therefore there's a gezayis after the bishul. You make a motzi, even though previously you didn't have it. Regardless, according to halacha, extra kavanas Rambam halach Rabbeinu Yonah Batur v'Hashulchan Aruch. The halacha is that if it's a psisim besides a gezayis and it's nikar to the tapas, in them you make a hamotzi. Otherwise, you make a mizonos. Okay. Class members. Class of Rabbeinu Beis Yosef Sifu Gimel. I feel a dava should be loso ava. You must say with a thick batter. In bishlam tigna, if you cooked it or fried it, ein baruch la motzi. Don't make a motzi in it. Mipnei. I'm sorry. It's good. In bishlam tigna, ein baruch la motzi. I feel sheyesh la tur nama, even if it has the countenance of bread. But I feel it's chai v'chal, even if they chal of it. Because motzi heino el chashas afiyah. The hamoti goes after the time when you bake it. You didn't bake it, just you cooked or fried it. Some argument. I mean, the kosher tchias isa ava, as long as a thick batter, a real dough. I feel we might even soften afterwards with water. But soup kanini made out of it, donuts. L'bishlo b'mayim, and you cooked in the water, or tingam b'shemen and fried in oil. Mevarech alei motzi still make motzi. The minhag is to be lenient. If you're showing yotzi shneim, someone who's God fearing will be yotzi both. You shouldn't eat this fried or cooked dough unless he makes a bracha on bread first. Ad kan l'shono. The kam is bar bezed. This will be explained later on. Mem gimel. Because of Alzer Rabbeinu Ramah, the kozel lo mari el beispe achar fiator lechem. The Ramah writes that all this is only when it has the countenance of bread after it's baked. Avol I leis beitor lechem doesn't have the countenance of bread. Konlukshin shikorin vermizlach, which I guess is some Yiddish form of vermicelli. L'chuliyam ein baruch alei mamotzi v'lo shlosh brachas. You don't make a motzi nor b'rachas mazon lo mikri lechem. It's not called bread. Avo pashtida bekreplach. Pashtida is a form of kugel. Mikre like a bread kugel. Mikre tor lechem is called counted as bread. Ve'en lochlim alekem birach al shar pastchila. You couldn't eat them unless you made a bracha on other bread first. Because the mayre lo mayre elabe isa shem moshem v'dvash chetzba. It's only if it's made just with water, but it's made with oil or honey, etc. It's the batter is not made with honey or oil, but it's fried in them. But if it's the batter is made with them with honey or with oil, then it's the passable kissing. But the Ibrahim Tzrichim Biur, this requires some explanation. Mr. Bura says that many Achronim agreed that if the prusos, the morsels have gezayis, then the countenance of bread works to make it amotzi. because if not, then by cooking or frying, the name of bread has gone off altogether in terms of hamotzi. Arukh HaShulchan, back Arukh HaShulchan, Mem Dalet. This is a way to understand it. DNA, ad kol nizbar din pasa bar b'kislin. Until now we've explained that halacha pasa bar b'kislin. It's not kneaded like a normal bread. We learned chavitza, which is absolute bread. After baking, but then you cooked it or glued it together by soup. And now we're talking about where it was kneaded as absolute dough, absolute bread dough. Only with water. Like a regular piece of bread. And its batter is a thick batter. Like a regular dough. It wasn't cooked like regular bread. It wasn't baked like regular bread, rather, sorry. Should be shlop because you cooked it. Or tigno, or you fried it. But it still looks like bread. This sees a contradiction in terms. Oxymoron. By cooking, it removes the countenance of bread, much better, like has been explained. So it doesn't mean you're literally cooking. You baked it in a pot with a little bit of water. And this is like cooking because there's some water in there. But retains its form as bread. And also the frying is similar with very little oil or butter. In such cases, there test. But it's exempt from motzi. Challah becomes incumbent on the dough when it's needed. After you baked it. Here wasn't baked like regular bread. Those arguing that motzi those arguing say motzi is like challah in this halacha. Which is to distinguish between hamotzi and challah. In other words, that not everything which is chayim challah is chayim hamotzi. The Ramah writes that all is talking about where there is, after baking, there's a countenance of bread. Doesn't have countenance of bread, everybody agrees you don't make a motzi and birchas hamazon. Mishabur writes that many achronim agreed that this is only if the pieces of bread are the size of a kazayas. The morsels are the kazayas besides kazayas. Because if not, then through the cooking or the frying, the shem lechem is been canceled altogether in terms of motzi. That's not comparable to the Ramah and Seif Yud, where it says you don't require the countenance of bread when there's a kazayas, because there it was originally a pas, and now you've changed it. To something else, right? But it was in this case, where you're initially frying it, you didn't bake it first. You're initially frying it or cooking it, so then you would have to have a prusa the size of kazayis. Mishabur writes that even if something is called bread in terms of challah, such as the time you needed it, he didn't have in mind to cook it or fry it afterwards, then he changed his mind. He's chayim challah according to everybody. Nevertheless, you don't make a brach of mamotzi according to those who distinguish between the two, which Mishabur seems to advocate. Mishabur also says that this is only when you didn't eat kedei svia, not to be satisfied. That when the chiyuv birchas hamazon is only the rabbanan, that we take on like the first opinion to distinguish between challah and hamotzi to be lenient. And when you ate enough to be satisfied with the chiyuv birchas hamazon deraisa, they had to make a birchas hamazon misafik. But this is only if at the time that you needed the dough, you made it a thick batter, and made it a thick batter, you had in mind to bake it. But then you changed your mind and made it donuts. But if your initial intent was to cook or to fry the dough, even if you later on ate enough to be satisfied, you don't make birchas hamazon, only a bala michya, which is an interesting distinction, has to do with what you had in mind first. Memhe, so So Arukh HaShulchan says, all this Ramah comes to explain. Don't make a mistake when it says it's cooked in water. Otigna b'shemen, or fried in oil. Davi bishul mamish, that is little cooking. V'tigul mamish, and little frying. The inkain ain't kantor lechem, because that case doesn't have a countenance of bread. Chuliyama butter. Everybody agrees it's butter. Dafilu Rabbeinu Tam the Machir say that motzi tali b'chala kamuva v'taisus. Even Rabbeinu Tam links chala and hamotzi. V'rosh, but then Rosh also chaposkim. Zeu akok sheish b'zeh Torah lechem. This one has countenance of bread. Rabbeinu Tam emesi in pasa bo b'kisim nilosh laydei mashkin. Rabbeinu Tam, if you have a pasa bo b'kisim which is kneaded with beverages, even if the beverages are not water, it looks like bread. The Shulchan did not bring this das yochid. Came in the lishaso enagastam lechem, because that's there. It's the pasuk kisnin is not kneaded like regular bread. I'm sorry, Varak Bekan. Only here where the kneading is like stam bread. Daito, they're concerned with Rabbeinu Tam's opinion, they might make a motzi. But Gamba said, custom even here they said the minutes actually be lenient and to say that no, bread, a motzi, and chal are two separate halachos. Varak Yeresh Shemaim, Shchoshesh only says there's Shemaim who is concerned. Yivarek al lechem acher tchila should make a bracha on other bread first. Mishnah Berurah says Yerushalayim is Yotzei both. That even when he had the das at the time of mixing the batter to cook and to fry, nevertheless he will only eat it together with hamotzi in a meal. Memvav. Rama adds, if it doesn't have the count as bread, everybody agrees don't make a motzi in three and a bigger samosa. Zesh kosef the pashtida of a krepach mikri Torah lechem, and a pashtida is a krepach shalom. It's not like our kukels and krepach. The kavanah should be seen both of ben Isa. He's talking about much more what we would call today, I guess, a knish. You put meat or cheese ben isa isa between pieces of dough for ofin b'tanur, and then you bake in the oven, and it's not really a knish even. It's a croissant, maybe not even a croissant. Not sure what to call it. I get it's but the filling is meat or cheese, but the bread around it is bread mamish, maybe a calzone. Vulechem mamish. Also, I don't think so. But that's all. That's bread. Because the calzone, I think all these things are made with oil and milk. The Mishnah Berurah says that Taz argues and he holds that also bread which is filled with meat and fish have its passable kistin, and therefore if you're not kovea, everybody holds to bring very misonos and malamichya. Mishnah Berurah himself decide paskins that if the bread is made in order to satisfy, the fact that it's filled of meat and such other like doesn't make a difference, and it's halachas like bread. If it's made, however, in a manner that's clearly made to be kinuach, a dessert, or something of that sort, and you don't make a motzi unless you cook a sud on it. I think this is the halacha from which pizza comes. That unless the dough is made with milk or apple juice or something of that sort, the bracha should be hamotzi because the ikar is the bread, even for one slice. I know 2% of people say it's like a possible the kiss and only have 2 slices, but it's difficult to say that. Back to the Arukh HaShulchan. Zelkein ha hamantash shalom b'purim. Look at that. That's like a hamantash b'purim shemalim shum shemin. Today it's exactly 4 weeks to Purim. Test science spot. That is like a hamantash on Purim. Shemalim shum shemin. You put sesame seed bal lechem. The bread will lechem gomer. But back they didn't make them cookies. They made them obviously bread. Tanya Pashtiva Kreplach Shekosov Shem Mamish Bas, and that was the Pashtina and Kreplach that he wrote, or Mamish Bas, or bread and Messinas, or Dormai, puts between them. Basically, Pasa Babkis, it's not like Pasa Babkis, she designed the dairy Shoina, according to the first opinion, Shemali Mosam Harbe Tabin Shkinim Egoizim, which you fill full of spice and almonds and nuts. The Rishon Mali Ma'isa Bariba Harbe, there we fill up the dough very much. Ach Ika Kapan Amili. So the primary intent is for the filling. But here, the primary part is the bread. It's like their pashti and krepach where it's filled with meat and cheese, etc. But the primary part is the bread. Then the Rama writes, obviously, this is talking about where the dough is mamish bread dough, doesn't have oil and honey. It's neat like other bread. But otherwise have a pasaba bekisnin. It's like a bread. It's like the pasaba bekisnin. That's Ramam. Should they should Sib Zayin, according to the second opinion, which in Sib Zayin that pasaba bekisnin is where it's made with fruit juices, etc. So there are some long brackets here. Vizel biur dibrayim. That's what they all mean. As a cause of Shiva, Sosa Sib Zayin vegan stira. Was there such contradiction? There isn't. The Bach writes that if you had a mind initially to bake it, and you change your mind to cook it, you don't do that. For Ramah Naki Loshen Afia, the Ramah uses the language of baking, Loros, that didn't indicate that the language of cooking and frying, which basically writes, it's not to be taken literally. In other words, the ways in which even if it's baked, it can still be mezonos. But what about, but the Magen Avraham is unsure of, when you kneaded it with oil and with honey, and then you fried it afterwards with a beverage and sham, the near came with the tigun mamish, tigun ksas, since it's not literal, evidently it's already been baked, and afterwards you're frying it. It's tzarich l'barach hamotzi b'kli suda. If you go via suda, then you have to make a hamotzi and bracha achroin on it. So tigun has to be real tigun, not mixas tigun. The Mishnah Berurah says that if you're kovei suda, when it's fried, you make only mazonos and amicha, because it takes out of Torah the category of bread altogether. But I don't think it's about tikkun sas like the Arukh HaShulchan. And African, of course, I think it's called French bread. I haven't had it many years, where it was bread. Usually it gets a bit stale, and then you fry it in a pan. So if you fry it intensely, so then it would perhaps lose its suras hapas and be mezonos. But the way it's fried retains its suras hapas and more than the kazais, it definitely would have to be a motzi. Mishmur says that those arguing hold this like passable bekisnin, even though it's fried, so they of course would hold that to make a motzi. And again, I don't think the Mishnah Berurah Arukh HaShulchan taking talking about two distinct issues here. Mem Zayin b'yimei paschot. In their days, they used to make bread which was scalded. Klomar shechoto yisa broskim. They scalded though with hot water, and then baked in an oven. Upas gomur, it's complete bread. Barach hamotzi biras hamozo. Bizmanenu egulim matbilim berodchim. Also today we do such thing with bagels. We dunk them in hot water. Upas gomur, it's absolute bread. Also, if you scald the flour with hot water, then when they bake in an oven, when you need it, it's also complete bread. Even if it is a loose consistency. If you baked in an oven, have a pas gomer, it's complete bread. And even you baked it in a pan, like a frying pan, on a pot, I'm sorry. pot. Imakafo below mashka cloud, as long as it's without any liquids. Lo mikri mashke. I'm sorry, below mashka cloud. I've mashka those mashka, and even if you grease the pan. Lo mikri mashke. It's not called beverage, cooking the beverage. There's those things they usually serve pasta. It's in order the bread should not burn. Mvarach hamotzi, mabiras hamotzi, make a motzi because of motzim. Havinasa ba'ilfas, tzas mashka tem tikkun. But if you put in the pot a little bit of a beverage for the purpose of frying, that's previous halacha, which is stated that even again, it's a significant frying, not tikkun tzas. Then even if it's a thick batter, you don't need a motzi. And there we brought the opinion which argues that says it's the same as challah, which goes after the dough. But if it's a loose consistency and you fry it in bread, so all opinions it's not bread. Mishnah Berurah says that if it's like a pancake, it's very thin. It's obviously possible barbecue, like we mentioned the opinion of Rav Haigon. The brackets here says Arukh HaShulchan OC you'll see if you doubt it. My Magenos Kon Lamadesh Kosem Shem Rabbeinu Rucham Shafilu Tigno B'Shemen in fried in oil Bafo Achakar and baked afterwards Baruch HaMotzi Ayin Sham. Bekam Nosu Tigun Gomer. It's not you fried it completely. The Chai Gavna have it kisnin. Like it's a possible bekisnin. Can also Tigun Ksas again a little bit of frying. So before talking about frying after, now talking about frying before. Came a Shalisha Afia Havi Kistam Lechem. Therefore, since the kneading and the baking was like regular bread, the little bit of frying in the middle, it's not changed the status. Which brings down that the opinion of Abraham is that even if you fried in oil then baked afterwards, you make a motzi, even when you run kovea suda, but the Taz many achronim agree that frying in honey or oil, etc., makes the possible kisnin, but it's only called possible kisnin when you fry it in so much oil that should be the ikar in taste relative to the flour. Memches Kosav Hatur. The Torah writes, chuknin. What is chuknin? V'hush osin guma b'kira. You make a hole in an oven. But the nosibak is like a hole in the bottom of the oven. The nosibak, in the floor of the oven. Nosibak chemical mine. You put in that flour and water, marvin bar, and you mix it in vinafrin bar, and it's cooked in that hole. Chai b'chalatz. You have to take chavin and baruch motzi. And say b'yidei chos pesach to mitzvah chametz. You don't tell pesach. Came a jeshu beguma, since it's in a hole, miskapsi yachdav, and it collects together. Nasguma pas gomer. It's like an absolute piece of bread. Avotrisa, which is shabiloso raka, it is a thin consistency. V'shlochim chemical mind. They take flour and water. Arvin mosan they mix together. The shofin also akira, and they throw it on top of the oven. We spashet and it expands when they have fat and it bakes. And I love Torah Slechem and to be bread and barchel burn name zonos akal shono. In kava love suda if you go be suda on this trisa. Pasakatura Torah baruch hamotzi. Torah said having motzi I've been by this pasuk if you kava suda so you make go suda me baruch burn name zonos. So the shains ever get 11 clouds, not bread altogether. But chuknin pasak the dafka b'kava suda me baruch hamotzi. But he says even the chuknin, which is the stuff he made in the hole in the oven, it's unless you kovei suda, it's not hamotzi. But you don't kovei suda, the kovei suda becomes merak mezonos. Ayin sham. So there's a shas muvurek rabbeinu Beis Yosef. So you shas like Beis Yosef. Shami mashma katur. Shami sounds like the tur rabbeinu Rucham before rabbeinu Beis Yosef. Miu yesham. Some say the betrisa shekava. If you took this trisa, this the thin batter, I think matur. If you kovei suda, halachas like the tur. The average between trisa, chuknin, raknin, and challah. The only difference between trisa and chuknin is only in terms of challah. Ben Rucham yesh tos at fusar. Ben Rucham there is a mistake in the printing, which is as we mentioned before, happens frequently. Pain like was that kid saying lecha klamini meilu. Never have to spend time this because we don't have these types of bread. Mishnah Berurah says, the Mogeh Avram says that when you make with a very thin batter, then you make a bar mizonos if you weren't kovea. But if it's not such a thin batter, so as long as it's baked at the end, you make a motzi. Be'er Lacha writes according to Levush, the reason is because this is not considered derech lisha, derech hafiyah, and therefore you would not make hamotzi. In any event, says Sarchi and Ladina. Mishabur also says that Magen Avram holds that when you're koveya on the tree tree saw the chuknin, you make a moti. The Rabbah says that that's because this you only in the Suda. Magen Yiborim says like the Shulchan Aruch. Lamai says Arukh HaShulchan said we're not familiar with any of these things. Mentes Orkas with also Namo the Handika. Ulechem or Esau those ofin b'shpud which you bake on a skewer. Moshe also b'shemen u'meibetim and you rub it with oil or with egg whites. Chilechem also the kutoch also bread which is made for their unique sour milk dish of kutoch. Shein ofin also betanur which they not bake in the ovens. El b'chama they baked in the sun. Baruch Allah bar minei mezonos akan l'shono. Because kachin, if you made them kachin peirush, meaning arucha v'na'ah, you set them up nicely and you made them look nice, can glusko like a pastry. Cheves b'chala, it's chayim b'chayim baruch l'bamot tzikal l'shona. V'ein yadu l'mashpita rabbeinu Beis Yosef. I don't know why Beis Yosef let it out. Moshe Mefurish came. V'zeu b'lech matzu kutach. Even the bread which is made for kutach, which is made out in the sun, you still can make a motzi in this case. Now, but the handikah lo shayach zeh, this doesn't have to do with Nama the handikah, which is I guess does not have the shape of bread at all. Again, we don't have this kind of stuff. Mr. Bura says we might go with the about this. Anyway, if you should not eat to satisfaction on this, unless you're going to eat bread and suda. But again, we don't have these types of bread, so not much relevant to us here.